Trevor Barone here with Mark Kramer from Eaglehawk. Now, Eaglehawk is using some new technology to analyze roofs and structures, specifically of condos and other larger commercial structures. Can you tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing?
Eaglehawk is using drones and cameras mounted underneath drones to survey large-scale roofs and plazas for any amount of moisture intrusion that may be coming through to the surface, as well as some moisture intrusion that may be a latent issue for those underneath. Eaglehawk uses a combination of high-definition photography as well as IR, infrared technology, to pinpoint areas of moisture intrusion that the naked eye otherwise cannot see. We use our photographic evidence to bounce off of our infrared evidence so that we don't have a what's called false positive scenario where the infrared shows the potential for moisture intrusion, but the photography shows that there is an instrument on the roof like an HVAC unit or another unit that might have a heavy heat signature, so that we can give the best quality of data to our clients.
Patrick and Will, founding members of the organization. You guys are going to be getting some information, some data on this building right here today. What are you guys going to be utilizing to capture that?
Our process is, first we're going to take a drone up with a visual camera, as Mark said, gain visual imagery of the roof that we could use in our analysis when we do the thermal analysis to kind of compare, is this real a wetness issue or something else? And so it also provides us mapping information, so we map the whole facility and allows us to go back and take dimensional information so we can figure out the size of the roof, how big the wet areas are, and so on. And then we'll come back this evening after sunset with the infrared camera and a different platform to go then inspect the roof with the infrared camera, try to figure out where there's wetness potentially in the roof.
I mean, this particular drone, we're flying a 12 megapixel camera. We're utilizing some automation software that helps us to actually plan the flight. So we will fly not only over one building, but each of these 4 buildings in a lawnmower pattern. With overlap, we'll take that imagery and stitch that into an orthomosaic or a geo-referenced map, alluding to what Patrick mentioned before as far as being able to take measurements and identify particular areas that we identify as problems.
Afterwards, we'll come back with the infrared camera and take what's called a radiometric Jpeg, so it's recording temperature information on each pixel, and then we'll go back and analyze that temperature information, allow us to manipulate that temperature information to really hone in on the wet spots. I'm an aerospace mechanical engineer by schooling. Like Mark, I worked with Lockheed Martin for about 8 years and spent a lot of time working with advanced infrared systems for military aircraft. And I got into drones about 3 years ago. I got my first drone for Christmas for my parents, and I saw drones going from these kind of cool high-end toys to these pretty sophisticated tools that could provide a lot of advantages in different areas. And I got in through the infrared space, and then I got connected with Will this past fall, the previous fall in 2016. His background's in GIS and mapping. We saw it as a great complement of skill sets, and then we founded Eaglehawk last fall.
My background's in geospatial science. I have my master's degree from the University of Buffalo in geographic data science and GIS. I'm a map guy. In terms of drones, I saw an opportunity to collect large amounts of data and essentially make and author my own maps. We saw our backgrounds and technical capabilities marry one another very well in terms of what we're trying to do from a business sense. And from the geospatial aspect, all of the data that we collect has some type of GPS data associated with it, and that's what in one piece really makes it very valuable for our customers.
We did a big project for the University of Buffalo. It was kind of our first big break. We inspected about 140 buildings in about 2.5 days. After our scan, they had a kind of a prioritized plan that they can go address their roofs in kind of a more constructive manner. From there, we've done a lot of different schools, hospitals, buildings. We're getting more into the utility space. We're doing a lot of gas pipeline inspection type work under bridges and places that they're hard to get to. And so we're really expanding as a company. When it comes to drone, there's a big misconception that, you know, my privacy is at stake, people are spying at me, but they have much more advantages and benefits than they do disadvantages. There's going to be a few knuckleheads that use them for the wrong ways, but as a commercial application, it provides huge benefits in safety, doing things that are hard to get at, that are dangerous to get at, doing things efficiently. I mean, these 4 roofs, if you had an inspector walking these roofs, it would take them 1 day, all night to do this. over these past 2 days, we're going to do 10 properties in just a series of days, which would be unheard of before drones. So the benefits it provides is huge. And not only that, we're enabling property owners, property managers to be more proactive versus reactive. So we're finding things early, helping them manage those things and attack them appropriately versus just dealing when they say, somebody's saying, hey, I got a leak in my, coming in my condo, I don't know where it's coming from. Now they've got some data to work with and allows them to manage their properties more effectively. The reason we do the thermal at night is because we rely on the thermal properties of water. So water has a higher thermal capacitance than dry construction materials. So it takes longer to heat up, takes longer to cool off. So when the sun heats up the roof all day, when you fly just after sunset, the wet areas are going to cool slower than the dry areas, and it creates that differential in temperature, and that's what we're looking for with the thermal camera. So anywhere that's wet should appear warmer on the roof, and that's what we're looking for. And then what we do is when we analyze imagery, and it's about a 20-80 rule. During our work, about 20% of the efforts capturing the data with the drone, about 80% of the efforts going back and analyzing the imagery, back at our desk and writing the reports. That's where the real value is, and that's where our skill set comes in. I'm a level 1 certified thermographer, but I'm also an aerospace mechanical engineer. Spent most of my career at Lockheed Martin working with advanced infrared systems. So that's my background. It's technology I understand really well, and that's where Eagle Hawk's value comes into this. Anybody could buy a thermal camera, but they don't have the ability to understand what they're really looking at. And so when we go back, if we see hot areas, we can compare that to the visual imagery and say, is this a roof coating issue? Is there a mechanical on the roof? Is there something else causing this heat that might not be water? And it allows us to limit the amount of false positives that we may get. In the infrared spectrum, we rely on different color palettes that the software, whether in the camera or on the computer, is interpreting the temperature information to a different color palette. It could be what's called iron colors, which runs anywhere from cold being blue to purple all the way up to hot being yellow to white. And so we usually fly in what's called the iron color spectrum, iron color color palette, and that allows us to see hot areas appear either orange or yellow and cool areas appear blue. So the roof, majority of the roof may appear blue or purple, and then the hot spots will appear orange, and that's how we kind of see it when we're flying. But when we get back to our computer, we can go back and use a specialized software and leverage the radiometric qualities of that image, which captures the temperature information for each pixel, and that allows us to go in and analyze and basically segment the areas that could be wet into a different color palette. That allows us to kind of isolate those areas, make it easier to analyze. When we do our reports, we try to identify where we see what we call areas of concern. Obviously, it's a passive technology. We're not 100% certain that's the wetness, but we have a high degree of confidence that this area appears wet. And what we usually say is that this is what we think it is and this is where we think it's coming from, and then we basically recommend you hire a roofer or a specialized roof inspector to go up on that roof and then core that area and verify that wetness. But what we're doing is we're basically providing a roadmap for them on the condition of that roof that gives them a starting point. Versus if they just went up and did cores every 3 feet, they may miss where the area is wet. So now they've got a starting point to go up on the roof and figure out where the issues are. Over the past year, we've probably looked at 300 plus roofs, probably 6 million square feet of roof. And what we're finding is generally 80 to 90% of the roofs we look at show some sign of wetness, even if it's just very small. And that's kind of the key advantage of our technology, is we could find issues early. It may take years for that small leak to propagate to the point where it's penetrating the premises and getting into people's living space. And so by catching it early, it saves a significant amount of money, because now you can do a quick and easy repair versus replacing an entire roof. And it's just, we've been amazed at how many roofs we've seen that show issues of wetness that people just are not aware of. One example of this, we did a corporate campus up in upstate New York, and they had just a brand new roof put on. It was only about 2 months old, and we already found issues where the flashing wasn't done properly and water was getting into the insulation, and they were able to catch that early and address it early. Another example, the University of Buffalo, we did a roof for them that was months from going out of warranty. We found issues they didn't know they had. They were able to address those issues under warranty and save a significant amount of money on future repairs going forward.
Well, thank you very much. It's very interesting. Want to get a lot of this information out to our condo boards, condo managers, and utilize, now that we're having a lot of maintenance issues, they'll utilize new technologies to help reduce the cost of risk and the cost of maintenance. So thank you very much, guys.